All right, Sophie Jacobs, what does the word temporary mean to you?
um, it means that everything is impermanent. That's, I mean, in Buddhism, that's like a basic truth
Okay.
that if we're not in contact with, that can really cause us suffering. So there's this aspect of life that every time we try to grasp onto something, it slips away. And
Ah,
even when like, the intentions are good and the idea is good, are grasping on to something to want it to like be permanent and stable and fixed and like have some sort of like essence to it's temporary. And so how do we get in touch with that aspect without kind of causing ourselves more suffering?
yeah, right.
Because there's actually a way in which we can really see like the temporal nature of life as a gift and as
Yeah,
actually arousing like urgency within us
yeah.
to to go forward in really our what you could call like your soul's calling or that intuitive guidance.
Mm-hmm.
And so I actually feel that like impermanence can be really freeing because not only do we're not trapped in our sense of self. We're not trapped in the identities we have of ourselves.
Right.
And so that can be freeing in a way of like, we don't actually have to play this character or we don't have to um indulge that habit anymore. Like,
Ooh, I love that. And you know what came to me, to my mind, was if you are, leaning into like the idea that things are temporary or accepting or whatever, then then it really establishes even more gratitude in our
yeah,
life because yeah, and we're living more present in the present moment, knowing that this exact moment is never going to happen again in the way
yeah,
it's happening now. And like we can just have this open-hearted appreciation for life and making decisions from our heart. What would I love right now in this moment? What would feel like super, super good? Because I'm never gonna have this moment again. So what do I choose to make of this moment? And it's about making memories. It's about creating experiences. Yeah, I love that. That's
yeah.
cool.
And I want to also share that like attachment is not connection, actually. It's not.
Good one.
And so like going back from, the previous slide when we're talking a lot about connection, when we actually get in touch with the fact that things are impermanent and that there's a temporary nature to the life that we live, it actually facilitates us into entering into connection. Um, if we can drop into that space. So I see it as kind of a wonderful um assistance for us to really get in touch with okay, what really matters for us, what's really here right now,
Yeah.
and that connection naturally arises from that present moment orientation.
Love it. So cool. And laboratory. I mean, look, sorry about that. Okay, start on. Laboratory. It's like, oh, let's do it again. Laboratory. It's almost like life is a laboratory, and I always say the soul is here to experience the experience. I learned that from Antonina Andreeva. I love that concept. And so, yeah, so soul's here to just live in the lab. How do you see laboratory?
Yeah, I see it as like we're whether we are aware of it or not, we're kind of living out questions. It reminds me of this writing by Rainer Maria Rilke, who in like Letters to a Young Poet, um,
Oh,
either it's like someone told him or he told this to someone else, like, be patient with the questions in your heart. Um, one day without even thinking about it, like
nice.
they'll just kind of have their way of showing you.
Yeah.
And so it's like we're this living, breathing question mark. We're this question mark because if we're temporary, then who are we really? And
Love it.
if we don't really know who we are really, it can, like, to the ego, that's just like inconceivable.
Yeah.
But when we drop down to the level of like what we call the soul, or in Buddhism, it's like no self. There's this
Yeah.
almost playfulness to it.
Yeah.
And that's where like the laboratory comes in, is like, oh, I'm here to play, I'm here to experiment, I'm here to hypothesize, and like, let's test out this hypothesis. So that was actually like a big part of my journey into inner knowing, into intuition, was getting my mind playful about it and getting my mind
Right.
on board with it. Because if I said tomorrow, like, I'm gonna learn this and that's gonna be how I do it, number one, that's not as fun, but number two, the mind would resist. There'd be a lot of resistance to it.
Right.
So I almost approached this investigation as such. It was like, well, what would happen if I did XYZ thing? I'm not going to assume, I'm not going to believe, because
Yeah. The what
that's
if
too
game.
uncomfortable for me right now
Yeah.
to claim a belief that I honestly don't even know is true. So
There you go.
what would happen if I used my life as a laboratory and I explored these questions and I brought out hypotheses and just saw what happened?
Oh,
And so yeah.
I love that. I used to play the what if game. My mom used to play that with my brother and I. That was always a fun little
Yeah.
game. That's come up out online several times. Like, what if this and what if that and what if that? And I love the way what you're saying. You just did it like, what if I did a laboratory and then you're running with it. So that's awesome. I didn't even think about like, okay, well then what's beyond what if? Well, it's the laboratory.
Mm,
The what if
mhm,
got you to the laboratory. That's so cool.
mhm, mhm.
All right. So yeah, and the truth is there is no truth kind of thing too, you know? I love that one. Okay, so gift. When you think about gift, are we a gift? Are we a temporary gift? How do you see the word gift?
Gift is just like a natural, it's a natural aspect of like the heart to want to give.
Okay. So gift is kind of connected with the heart.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
definitely connected with the heart space, but it's also connected with, because of our temporality and the impermanence of all things, there's a way in which we can orient to life as a gift and to the present moment as a gift, because it's never going to be the same.
Right.
Um, and so like you're not ever going to have the same moment as like we're having right now. And so kind of coming into that awareness, it can actually bring out more connection with what's happening and
Yeah.
with people in a way that, yeah, it just brings out gratitude. And the heart, when it's naturally grateful and connected, it just wants to give and give and give
Yeah.
from a place that actually doesn't have this
It's,
sort of scarcity mindset. There is
yeah.
no scarcity.
Oh,
It
I love
just
that
gives
too.
to give.
And you're not expecting something in return. So it's a
Yeah.
gift without it's not transactional, right? It's not the
Yeah.
reciprocity kind of giving. It's just giving to give. And yeah, I love that. Like you said when you were visiting, my husband, Ambassador Terry Earthwood-Nichols, and I this past weekend actually, and you're like, well, yeah, and like this happened and this happened. It wasn't expected. It's like, yeah, that's like the best part. You didn't have any expectations, and we
Mhm.
weren't putting any on you either, and things were just happening so beautifully and naturally. It was really, really fun to be in the laboratory, connecting at the level of the soul, and being our true selves, being who we
Mhm.
really are, and being in alignment with what works and what doesn't for us, and using our words to express that as well. So nobody was kind of wondering about the other. Yeah, I love that. Okay.
Yeah.
So canvas, how do you see that?
Well, I see it as there's always like a vehicle or a medium with which like to express. Like
Okay.
ideas get carried by canvases. So like what's your canvas?
Nice.
And my canvas happens to be at this moment in time writing.
Ah, yeah, you did
So
too. So about to be published. Yeah.
yeah. So it's a really exciting thing. Like um it's just a medium, it's a carrier.
Right.
And in a way, you know, I was just recently on retreat and in Nashville of all places, and you know, that's how we later met. But when I was on retreat, I had this kind of sense of wow, um practicing in this way, it's beyond just like anything that you could read in a book. And yet I do also acknowledge that sometimes books and words as like the canvas through which kind of ideas and insights can get channeled.
Yeah.
Sometimes like that vehicle can only like affect certain people, like can only reach certain people through that vehicle.
Ah,
And
yeah. Almost like a platform,
yeah,
like we say in social media.
yeah, it's like a platform.
Cool.
Um, but like it's very creative how we can employ our canvas. Like everyone's canvas is going to be different,
I
how
love
they
that.
kind of channel that.
Yeah.
But I do believe like there is kind of a unity or a oneness in a lot of the messages that people share. It's just from the outside, from the world of like form and concept, the
Yeah.
canvas is going to look different. So
Yes.
it's going to look like there's division and separation, but really like behind the canvas there is a deeper kind of unity and
Connection.
awareness.
And
Yeah,
awareness.
connection.
I
Yeah,
love
exactly.
that. That's brilliant. Thank you so much, Sophie. It's just so fun, so deep and juicy when we chat. So thank you.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you so much, Linda, for having me on.
Absolutely. Bye-bye.
Bye.